Today we'll be traveling from Arlon in Belgium to Luxembourg City in Luxembourg. The fastest way is to travel on board of an intercity, but we'll be traveling on board of a regional train. And these are Luxembourg's newest trains. These trains have been purchased especially for cross-bordering connections between Luxembourg and Belgium and Luxembourg and France. Join us on this regional train from Arlon here in Belgium to Luxembourg, the capital of the country with the same name. For now, let's get this video on the track and let's roll the intro. We arrived in Arlon by intercity train that came from Brussels and will continue its way to Luxembourg. However, we got out at this railway station, and before we go to the train, let's do a quick railway station review. The railway station of Arlon has been open since 1885 and the building is actually pretty cool. At the side of the railway station there is a bus stop, what's quite obvious for a railway station of this size. At the bus stop there's a ticket machine as well where you can buy some bus tickets, but it's also easy to buy them online is my personal experience. When we were here, it started to rain like crazy, so I didn't film that much around it. However, there are quite some shops around the railway station itself. Within the tiny railway station, you'll find a nice main concourse where there are some spots where you can wait, especially when it's raining, it's very much appreciated. What I like about this place, there is a staffed ticket counter. Apart from that, you also find a vending machine where you can buy train tickets and this machine here where you can fill up your water bottle so you don't have to buy plastic bottles, because tap water in this part of the world is absolutely great and maybe even better than buying plastic bottles. There is a commercial area within this station that's not being used, so if you want to start a business here, be my guest. Within the main concourse there were quite some screens that will host information about departing trains. But I didn't put it well on camera, but it's basically above the way to the platforms. Speaking of which, platform and track number 1 are located right at the front of the railway station. So you can go straight from the main concourse or from the bus stop to this area over here. For all the other platforms, you need to use the underground passage. What is totally fine to me, but what I find kind of unacceptable on this topic is that there are no escalators or elevators within this railway station. There is a solution though for people who really need it. There is a kind of a lift where you can be put on if you're traveling in a wheelchair, for example. But like the lady that was going down at the other side, she really had some difficulties by walking. And well, calling for a special wheelchair lift is maybe a step too far for her. I mean, these are the wheelchair lifts you can find to all platforms. I think it's a good step, but I think it should be more than this only. I mean, I'm also talking from the perspective of a soon-to-be father who might have a baby with a push car. So yeah, accessibility is not only for people who need it because they can't walk that well. Apart from that, within the underground passage there are no screens with information about departing trains, but at the platform you will find clear screens with information about departing trains. Although I didn't put it well on camera as well. And this here is the train that will be taking today from Arlon here in Belgium to Luxembourg City, the main station in the capital of the country that bears the same name. Before we take a close look at the interior, let's take a close look at the exterior of the train. Today we'll be traveling on board of a CFL rail class 2400. These trains do consist of 3 carriages only and are allowed to operate on routes within obviously Luxembourg, but also Belgium and France. Our train today consisted of 3 carriages only. But you will also find these trains that do exist of 6 carriages. No matter what, 3 or 6 carriages, there's 1 carriage within these train sets that is a single deck carriage and all the others are double deck carriages. This way you make it also easier accessible for those who need this, because you don't have something you need to go up or down for the single deck carriage. and the double-deck carriages do provide way more capacity than the single-deck carriage for obvious reasons. The first class area has been marked crystal clear. Apart from the number 1, you will find a yellow stripe around the windows where you will find the first class. This is a kind of the international standard for the first class areas on board of trains. The top speed for these specific trains is 160 km per hour. I hope you like this video so far, or that it's a helpful video to you. If so, please give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation, the main focus for this channel is long distance and or international traveling. Well, this is an international train, not really long distance, so it ticks the box. But if you'd like to see more, then hit that subscribe button if you haven't done this already. Some questions, feedback, comments, even if you just want to say hello, feel free to leave a comment, of course. For now, let's continue with this video. However, quickly before we continue, a quick look on the environmental impact if you're traveling between Arlon and Luxembourg between train and car. The regional trains are a little bit more polluting than the intercity trains on this route, simply because they have to make more stops and also therefore accelerate from a standing still position. But still, the train is the absolutely winner on this route. And for the environment, we just need to cut down our emissions. And taking public transportation more often is one of the easiest things to do. I mean, I don't want to do big concessions later on, because we didn't make some smaller concessions now to, well, adjust our lifestyle to cut down emissions. Anyway, for now let's continue with this video. And for this, let's go to the interior of these trains. Apart from the classes, basic facilities what can be found where have been marked at this side as well. And here we enter the train. Straight at the moment you enter the train, there are some litter bins. But what I noticed, it's not very high. I am really tall, so I'm not the average person. I'm not a, well, good example on this. I'm not telling my exact length because of privacy reasons, but I am around 1.90 m. But this here, I haven't had this experienced in any other train so far. Well, before the train review, I will start at the upper deck, where I also couldn't stand fully. And I will start off in the first class that comes just like standard class in a 2x2 configuration. If you are traveling in first class in Luxembourg, you need to have a ticket, basically a supplement. It's not that much. Second class for domestic trains within Luxembourg is for free. For the airline style seats, you do find a small table in the seat in front of you that's quite sturdy, and all windows both at the upper and lower deck and both in first and second class do have a sunscreen. Power sockets are located between the seats and there are quite a lot of them. For luggage you do find the overhead luggage racks, although they don't provide a lot of space in double-deck trains. But don't miss out on the back ends between the seats, and this doesn't only count for this train, but for trains in general. Apart from that, at several spots you find these dedicated luggage racks. For our relatively small train that existed of 3 carriages only, the middle carriage was the single-deck carriage. Over here you will only find second class. And my wife sitting here. In this area of the train you will also find the accessible area, for obvious reasons, and right next to the accessible area you find the bigger accessible toilet. I'll show you in a bit. This here is the accessible area, and right next to that there's the bike area. I mean, the single deck area is best for this. Also, the overhead luggage racks within the single deck area are much bigger than in the double deck area. Also within standard or second class there are lots of power sockets, including USB sockets. I mean, in that sense, this is a really modern train. These seats here do not have a window. I don't get this. Actually, there are more and more modern trains where there are some seats without windows. I mean, for these seats here, I kind of understand it, because you will use the space that is otherwise not occupied. And there are still power sockets over here as well. But for some seats that do come into the driving direction or driving backwards, I don't really understand it why they design trains without windows on it. I do understand though that in some situations the layout is, well, for some seats a little bit less good and for some other seats a little bit better in terms of watching from the window. But especially on a long distance train, I think it's really important that you can have a nice look outside. However, these are no long distance trains at all, so that's not a big problem if you ask me. Also, something else I really noticed, and I like that in a way. All the space is being used very efficient on board of these trains to create seats. It's a high capacity train for sure. Now let's do a seat review of the standard or second class seats. And this is much less good than the first class I showed you earlier on. Even though first class comes in a 2x2 configuration where your first impression might be, oh, that's not so nice. This here is much tighter. I don't dislike it, but it's not that I'm impressed with the seating pitch, to be honest. However, once again, these trains will mainly be used for shorter journeys that will go just across the border from Luxembourg into Belgium or France. Of course, power sockets are here as well. Now let's move on, because no train tour is complete without showing you the toilets. The toilets on board of these trains can be found in the middle carriage. This here is the regular toilet. Pretty fine, nothing special. And apart from that, like I already mentioned before, you will find the bigger accessible toilet right next to the accessible area, what makes a lot of sense. If you're traveling with a baby or a toddler, you can change the diapers here as well. What is absolutely great, and this feels pretty solid as well. I'm gonna need this in the not too far away future, so I can review this even better for you. To lock the toilet, you have to push this handle over here. And there's also a sound mentioning that the toilet has been locked. There were some signs mentioning that free Wi-Fi is available, although I didn't test it out. And throughout the train there are lots of screens that will host route information. Announcements were being made automatically in Luxembourgish and French. So if you speak German, you can understand Luxembourgish. About train tickets. You can buy them via the Belgian State-owned railway company, the Luxembourgish State-owned railway company. My personal favorite website in general to book train tickets within Europe is Trainline, but I bought these tickets, at least for my wife, on the website of the Dutch State-owned railway company NS. I personally was traveling with the use of Interrail, or Eurail, that's basically the same. However, trains within Luxembourg are for free, so you only pay for the section from the station of Arlon to the border. From the moment the train crosses the border, you basically don't pay for it. If you want to travel in first class, you can do that as well. However, what I noticed, especially on these tickets that will just go across the border, you always pay €6 extra. When you are within the country of Luxembourg, you can, at least at the moment of recording, for €6 travel on all trains in first class within Luxembourg. And for €3 you have a 2-hour upgrade to first class. Luxembourg is a small country, but you can still make some relatively longer distances by train if you are here. These first class upgrades for the Luxembourg trains can only be purchased via the Luxembourg State-owned railway company CFL. In their app or vending machines. For now, I'll show you some views from the train along this route. that's it on board of this very regional train from Arlon in Belgium to Luxembourg City, the capital of the country with the same name. I hope you liked this video or this has been helpful to you. Once again, if so, please give me a thumbs up, I really appreciate that. Questions, feedback, comments, even if you just want to say hello, feel free to leave a comment. And if you'd like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation, like I already mentioned before, this channel is mainly focusing on long distance and or international traveling. Well, we had an international train for sure, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't done this already. Before we really end up this video, one very last thing. In the description of this video you find a link to a map, and on this map you can find all videos as well, but then on a map. Apart from that, you can also find lots of videos on this channel, and if you subscribe you can see new videos coming up as well. Do you like to see passenger POV videos? I do have a separate channel for this, called Trainviking Passenger POV. See you on the next video.